I mean, as a big picture view, in a moral district, we can only spend what you take in, right? So you get about half of our budget from the state and federal, and then you get about half locally. Since the board passed a budget that consumes most of our savings, most of our general fund, how can this board morally proceed with the overconsumption, given that the remaining $3 or $4 million we're going to be short is all going to come from the local taxpayers, which will be about 20%, and we're not even allowed to raise taxes to meet that demand. So you're literally harvesting your general fund in 1 year. So it's not, like you mentioned, not a 3 or 4 year period. You're going to be broke by the end of this year out of cash. And with a budget that's far beyond your revenue, projected or otherwise. So how do you square that circle, guys? How do you have a budget that is far greater than your expected revenue? And how can you morally continue that direction?
I think we're making a good faith effort every day to try and improve it, and we're anxiously awaiting the auditor's reports too that can be shared with the board and the public to kind of hopefully explain some of that.
I mean, I appreciate that, but you're the administration. I'm asking the board, the committee. What are you guys doing to make sure that you don't give the administration more money than you have? No matter how much he begs and asks, or how much you want to beg the state to ask, there's only so much you can provide. And you're broke. You're not taking in, you're spending more than you took in. You're consuming your general fund at an alarming rate. Now, that general fund was created by past boards that just taxed willy-nilly and created multi-million dollar, tens of millions of dollars in surplus that you consumed in a stadium, consumed in schools, but you still have a consumption problem. You're consuming more than you take in. There's an end to that. And right now, the end is next year. So if you don't look now, you're 4 months into this year. If you don't look at what you're spending and try to stop it before you get to the end of this year, you're going to be broke. And right now, the shortfall projected is about $4 million or close to it, which is about 20% of the local revenue, 20% of the local tax base. You're not allowed to raise the taxes 20%. I'm sorry?
We have enough in general fund to pay the bills until through the end of this
We
year.
are managing cash flow on a daily basis.
How long is the general fund balance going to last us?
So we have some, we're waiting for the audit to be completed. There are, some items that we need to wait for the auditors before we get that final number, but it looks like a 1.8 million loss. There was roughly...
When you say $1.8 million loss, that means we're $1.8 million short in our, what we budgeted?
In your actual performance.
Or we're $1.8 million short of money to pay the bill?
1.8 million short, expenditures were $1.8 million more than actual revenue taken
You spend more than
1819.
in. 18,
How
19.
much
1819.
is in the balance right now, fund balance?
The fund balance right now, I'd have to pull that out, I don't have that in front of me.
About 3 million something. around there.
Unrestricted was roughly 2.2, Tina, if I remember correctly, as of June 30, 2018. So that 1.8 million is going to eat up what was the
The rest.
unassigned, yeah.
You consumed it all. You took the money and you spent it that you didn't have.
I
You
agree.
didn't allocate. You got books that are bad. You got the band complaining that they got funky smelling uniforms, and you consumed it. So the question is, you're 4 months in, you're a third of the year in. Where are you now in relationship to the budget that you originally projected? And are you making changes to steer that back online? Morally, you have this obligation as a board, not the subordinates that you hire to manage it after you tell them what they can and can't use. So normally you would say, here's how much we're projected to take in. We're going to use 90% of that, right? Tie some into savings. And then this is what you have to run your school with. Show us some answers as to how we can balance this with the responsibilities that we have. And then if they can't do it as your subordinates, then let other minds in the community, including your board, sit down and look at it from a real projection and say, look, we only have this much to consume, so where are we going to consume it? Now you're making moral-based decisions. Are you going to buy a book, or are you going to buy another stadium? Are you going to buy a responsibility for education, or are you just going to consume it willy-nilly? Because you have a consumption problem, guys. I mean, it's obvious, and the end is near. It actually shows that you were ended last year $1.8 million short. You spent more than you had. Normally, you're not even allowed to do that without the board getting approval. But this board immorally gave the keys to the administration on a regular basis with no controls, no oversight. And now we're blocked from even seeing the bills. I mean, this is ludicrous. You don't have, the board has this responsibility. You're the only ones with this responsibility. It's your moral job to show up and make sure that you give no more to the administration than they need or that you have, one of the two. Because you can't borrow money to run your operation. You already indebted this district up for, tens of millions of dollars in construction costs. You're not allowed to borrow money to just make your ends meet. You have either too much staff, you have too many benefits, you have your enrollment's down, so it's not that we have too many kids. I mean, does anybody on this finance committee or on this board recognize that this is the path you're on? Rita? Finance committee? Any ideas? I'm sorry?
Dave?
Well, you have senior citizens, you have regular citizens. These people are letting you consume more than you have. So if you don't have the moral character to stop yourself and say no, and recognize these are not extraneous expenses. These are committed expenses you're deciding to make each and every month. And you have to look at them each and every month and decide which ones you want to make or not make. And you have to make that decision almost before you even make the purchase order to buy something. That's when the expense is first created. So the way that the system's supposed to work is the board creates a budget to give to the administration, not the other way around like it's been. And then after the board gives the administration the budget, then they try to figure out what they can do, and then they talk to the board about what else they may or may not need or what needs to take place. And then the board talks to the people to try to get what they need. You guys got this whole thing backwards, and it's been backwards. So right now, you're broke. You just said it. You're $1.8 million over last year. You only have a couple $1 million left in the fund balance from all the overtaxation. And you're short this year by almost $4 million. Now,